All right, so today's video, we are watching a Silver 5 Reinhardt on PC. So Reinhardt obviously has had a lot of discussion this season. I was just talking about it before going recording the video that I feel like Reinhardt is going to be good in bronze and silver. And then in some ranks, you'll start to see as you climb, Rein will lose a little bit of that value because I'm sure you hear about Rein struggling quite a bit. I'm sure Rein still does, but there's going to be some ranks where Rein, just no matter what, is going to be good just because of the play style. So just to kind of read some of this, I played a little bit of Overwatch 1 with friends in college a few years ago, but ended up getting into Overwatch 2 by myself just a couple months ago. I've been hyper obsessed with watching educational content, so I'm always trying to think at a higher level to my rank, consider angles, high ground, and I know it doesn't always work out. Keep in mind, it won't always will. It just gets you in the good habits of stuff. Especially playing tank in this new meta. But I feel like I have learned quite a lot, having put about 100 hours in the past month and a half. I'd love some analysis and feedback on how my learning journey has led me so far. Sounds good, let's see. Reinhardt time, Route 66. Definitely an interesting map for Rein. Here we go. All right. Try to be a bit more accurate with your fire strikes because you kind of just threw them and missed them. All right, that's 3 fire strikes where it wasn't even really close. So just start with that. All right, shields up, shield up. See your fire strikes to how they're just. Oh, that was a treat. Okay, so you want to make sure you're holding your shield a little bit more there, right? You also want to make sure that your fire strikes are a bit more accurate. You didn't hold your shield, you took too much damage, and then you fire striked and missed by a mile. And you could be at about 50% ult charge right now if you were just remotely aiming your fire strikes at him. You'll see what I'm talking about. Remember, shield's up. And I want you to stop backing up. I want you to move forward a little bit. And what I mean by that is, use see how close they are? There's the fire strikes again. Okay, you finally hit one. That's good. Don't be afraid to go for a charge. Love it. Good charge idea. Shields up, though. I trust, you don't want to fall behind an HP. I know you want to be aggressive as Rein, and that's fine. I'm not going to get you into, the shield bot style, but I also want you to recognize that the reason why tanks can struggle a lot right now is because the more damage you take, the less likely your supports can get you back to full HP, and the more that their DPS chip away at you, the less likely they can get you back to full HP. So you want to, almost min-max where your good fire strikes there, by the way. Do you see the value of, actually having a good fire strike and, aiming with it? Good job there, but yeah. You don't want to get that damage passive on you constantly, so the shield can help you with that. All right, you're backing up a lot, too. Remember, your overall goal eventually as Rein is to create space for your team while making it tough. Big slam! While making it tough for everybody else. So you have this tendency to hit your back button a lot, and I want you to get a little bit more in the mindset of you can play a little bit more up in their face. Think about it from this point of view. If you were playing Sigma, would you want a Reinhardt to be up in your face? Probably not. And what you're doing is you're kind of giving that Sigma more value by taking away, giving them the space that they need to be able to make those plays. I talk about it all the time. One of Sigma's toughest counters, believe it or not, is actually a Reinhardt. Reinhardt is really good against Sigma on some maps. Obviously, if it's a Circuit Royale, you could argue, very map dependent on certain maps, right? Havana, etc. But overall, Reinhardt up against the Sigma is going to be a tough matchup, which is also probably why they switched off of Sigma already. But you were giving him a little bit too much value, so I want you to kind of pay attention to that a little bit more. Be careful, back up just a little bit. There you go. But keep creating that space. I mean, this is, you know what? Heck it. If you're going to be accurate with those charges and you have a wall to go to that's not too far away, I'm totally fine with those type of plays. That's being aggressive, and that's creating space for your team. I also try to, give you this mindset sometimes, too. If you're ever playing, DPS or support, do you prefer when your tank is up in their face and making it easier for you to play wherever you want, or do you like it when the other tank is running at you and making it hard for you to play? And sometimes if you think about that mindset as a tank player, it kind of can help you understand, oh, this is how I need to play and how I create space. Now, I'm not saying go up there and get down to 50 HP every single time, but you have definitely, against the way their teams play right now, is you've had plenty of opportunity to play aggro. I think you sometimes go a little bit away from your team. You back up too much. We'll see. Hit your fire strike. That's good. There you go. Be careful. You're going to get stuck at that door. You have to kind of go to the AA. Okay, so this is where I'm going to pause. Do you see how, yes, the Rein hit a charge? But this is the thing. The Rein hit in the charge was the last of my worries right there. Just a good play by Rein. That all that poke damage you're taking, to you, it doesn't really add up, right? To you, you're like, okay, I'm doing whatever. I'm making plays. Keep me healed. But all that poke damage you take is exactly how you get shredded on any tank. It's something actually I learned a little bit more, even like when we would do like the team Overwatch scrims and matches, etc. Is like, I need to minimize the amount of poke damage I take. Now, just to give you an easier way to describe poke damage, just the random damage. Like Junkrat hits you for 10 damage, you know. You drop your shield and Moira right-clicks you for a few seconds. Ashe hits you with a couple pop shots. Lucio hits you. Next thing you know, before you even had a chance to do anything, you're at 450 HP. And your mindset is going to be, oh, my supports will keep me up. But with a new passive in the game, the supports just can't keep you up. And even though tanks got more HP, and that's why sometimes people are like, well, what if you gave Rein an extra 100 HP? If you keep taking poke damage, no matter what rank you're at, it will not matter because you're never going to be able to get caught up on heals, right? The reason why they do the higher HP now is it takes a lot longer for you to get to full HP as a tank, but it's also the reason why a lot of tanks struggle, is a lot of tanks just aren't letting their supports get them back to full HP, or they make it impossible. So I want you to really minimize how much you're sitting here taking damage. You're just sitting there, you're dropping your shield, you're looking at them in a straight line, you put your shield up at 200 HP, and by then they can't catch up. So, they give him 200 more armor? Oh yeah, I'm sure that would go. Rein would dominate. Rein? If you give Rein 25 more armor, Rein dominates. It happens every time. To give Rein the shield for Mirror Watch. You know my take on that? Not the BAP window one, but I do think having some type of mechanic where, like, you get speed boost based off of, like, taking damage on your shield or something like that. I love the idea of that. Like, and it's a bit biased because chat knows I've been talking about that for a long time, where I've always wanted something like that, because I feel like Rein... By the way, you're doing it again. You see how you're just like swinging your hammer at absolutely nobody, and then you go up to them and take damage? It's the same rinse and repeat. And then you get shattered. But I've always loved the idea of like Rein having a little bit more, being a little bit more self-sufficient. And because like right now, Rein is so reliant on having a Lucio that if you don't have a Lucio, like playing Rein becomes 10 times harder. And that's something you just don't want to see, right? You know what I mean? Big slam. Big slam! I knew that was going to be a good shatter because their Rein didn't pay attention to you. You still might get rolled though. Believe it or not, that's a good charge out. Like, that charge right there was good. Because you weren't going to be able to survive that. You needed to make some type of play. Your Moira... I think your Moira should have had Fade again, but... And now you charge. Good job recognizing they just charged, but now... Right there is an example of what you're doing. Notice how, like... I'm not saying you survive against the maybe. Notice how your first reaction was just to keep swinging your hammer? You put your shield up there with 1400 shield. Maybe your team gets back in time. Maybe that Mei goes down. Mei can't get you. You survive that. More map control. You're good to go. But right now, you're almost playing like your shield barely exists. And maybe you've heard a lot about like shield management, which I mean, I'm sure a lot of people talk about. But like, to give you an idea, it's okay to kind of manage to use your shield to like 700, 800 damage to reduce that damage. Your number one issue on Rein is you just take a bunch of damage. And what I mean by that is, as a tank, you're always going to take a bunch of damage, but you're taking unnecessary damage. You're taking damage that, like, if you just put your shield up for a second, if you did all this, you would probably survive a lot more. So, I think getting in the habit of that will help you a ton as a Rein player. Keep in mind, and just so you know, this type of play style on Rein isn't uncommon. I can actually say that, like, as I had to learn Rein, I had to go through kind of this same process. If you're learning Rein, there's this play style of, like, you either want... Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Like... You're too worried about your shield taking damage, so like what I'll do sometimes is I would just sit there and not use my shield until last possible second. But like on paper, you're like, okay, this is great. But the problem is that it goes back to what I said. You're just taking too much unnecessary damage that your teammates can't keep up with, and that adds up to so much more than you can even like see. Yeah, I'm hoping they do some type of shield thing like that for sure. All right. It's funny to me because you don't use your shield the whole game. Then when you have a 5v2, your first thing to do is hold up your shield to nobody. You see what I'm saying? That's a Moira ult. Fire strikes. Remember, you're kind of wasting them at times. Just so you know, if you charge into a Mei ult, yes, it can freeze you for a little bit. Big slam! Patience after a shatter. You just shattered and like you just gave up on the lift, basically, by doing that. There's a high noon, by the way. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Yep. Okay, so we're just going to pause right now. If you see them high nooning, try not to charge in line of sight of them. I'll give you the charge, but yep. That was a high noon. Alright, I mean, like, I think right there, I guess the good news is it's very apparent on some of the things you could work on. Taking the TP away was tough. A good mindset to get into as a tank player, or as a player in general, is that when you use an ability, sometimes it can also help your teammates, right? But maybe they didn't even take the TP away. Maybe the TP got destroyed when they went top left, right? Because remember, you don't have to destroy once. You have to destroy... I didn't see if they did, but yeah. But yeah, like a lot of people will use their abilities for themselves, and sometimes, like, if you're playing Sim, for example, your TP can help a bunch of your teammates. Remember that. Well, like, your speed boost is Lucio. You know, it can help your teammates if you use it correctly. Well, my problem on Rein, and it's something that I'm trying to work on as Rein, is that a lot of Reins like to play chess. Like, they're like the battle of Rein versus Rein, they're playing chess. The problem is that I'm playing Connect 4, and that's where my Rein struggles happen. So I've been trying to, I guess I have to learn a little bit of chess to figure out how to play Rein, you know? But a lot of it is that, like for example, they have a good, and this is kind of a good example of what you're doing. Like, you see how you're playing this right here, right? Like, you see how you're playing this angle, and you're not using your shield? Why is this a good play? Let me ask you this question. Why is what you're doing a good play here? Because I just told you a second ago, oh, I want you to use your shield more, but why is you not using your shield good right here? I mean, why? Because you have cover, right? So the unnecessary damage that you would normally take, exactly. The unnecessary damage you would take would be very minimal, and you also have a health pack. You have someone here to, like, if you do need to use your shield, you have places to go, right? So this is an example of, yes, this is good shield management, right? But you don't need it. You can't apply that same style of play if you're sitting in the middle of the open. And quite frequently you are. So that is the example of a good play. I say decent position. I find sometimes players can sit here and then get stuck and then not react in time. But, like, it is still a good spot that I think is good. So, like, like it's not bad is what I mean. Sorry, I kind of, like, said 4 different ways to describe that. But it's not bad to do that, and you keep your shield and you minimize the damage you take. But it has to be, that's where you have to kind of adjust that playstyle, right? Because now if you sit in the middle of the open right now and take a bunch of damage, then you're going to get rolled. But it looks like you're, yep, now you're at half HP, so you're taking, okay, see that? Okay, then look at your HP. Now, regardless of whether or not, I want you to look at this way. And if you respond with, okay, I built ult charge for my Ana, etc., your Ana would be about a 5% difference right now, okay? One of the problems that you're doing right there is you're taking a bunch of damage, right? Now, I want you to think about the value of what you did. You stood here, you stared at them with your shield down and did nothing. What's going to be better? Losing 800 shield and going back to the safe spot right here when you know you have numbers? Or standing there, dropping your shield, falling down to 90 HP, making your supports have to overuse all their cooldowns? And yeah, the flip side is you build a little bit of ult charge, but you can do that by taking like 100 damage and hiding, not 800 damage or 600 damage and wait for your teammates to catch up on heals. And that is where you need to, like, adjust your play style, because when you do that, those moments of dropping your shield is not going to be good at that point. So and people, and there's going to be the argument of, like, oh, well, it's working. Sure. But, like, getting you in good habits, you're still going to be able to pop off and make moments. Now, once again, we go back to what we just did. What was any of that you just did right there? Like, I want you to think about why you made that play. What was the reason? There wasn't any reason to make that play. You didn't get any value. You didn't do any damage. All you did was take a bunch of unnecessary damage and now put your teammates in a spot where they lose the contain that you had. If you're going to lose the contain that you have, you want to lose it with the other team using their ultimate, right? Make their Rein shatter you, right? Okay, you get shattered, whatever. All good. They nano somebody, all good, but, like, and I'm not saying that in silver there's going to be perfect ult usage, but at least force them to have to overreact to get you out of there rather than you just give them a free pick. You know what I'm saying? Big slam! Good charge, good follow-up. Nice job. Now remember, shield up for a second. Like take your map control with a little bit of shield. And I just want you to get in the habit of that here, right? I'm not saying it's necessary, but I want you to get in the habit of doing that. And then the more that you play, the more that you see when it works, when it doesn't work, the more likely you're able to make a correct decision on whether you should shield or not. But right here, Good job, good position. Be careful of doing what you did last time. You can play right here. You have the cover from the health pack room. You have to worry about your right side a little bit, but not too bad. Look at this. They're not doing much damage to you. Now, if people's argument is like, oh, but you let your Ana die, you did not let your Ana die. That was not going to be on you. There was nothing you could do about the Ana doing that. I mean, the Moira doing that, maybe you charge the Moira, but like, that is a very risk-reward play. Your Ana was just out of position. You can't save your Ana from that. In your opinion, is given a bit too much space. I think it depends where the team fight happens because the team's staggered. Yes, you could argue you could go here, but let me ask you this question too, because you talked a little bit about the space in this one. If your teammates aren't there yet and your team isn't set up, if you try to deny this space, are you really going to deny anything? No, the only thing you're going to deny is your teammates' ability to come and win a team fight. And why is that? Because you're already playing up too aggressive. Your teammates have died on a previous stagger. Look where everybody is right now, right? You just lost your Ana. It's just to be the Rein. You're creating no space at this point. In fact, that is probably the safest spot you could have gone without playing up top. You see what I'm saying? Like you said, you let the DPS sit up high ground. Yeah, but like sometimes it's not always on the Reinhardt to go take care of the DPS on the high ground either. The Reinhardt can also sometimes be the statue that sits right here and stops the cart. Like if I look at this from the Rein's point of view, the Rein is actually in a pretty good spot. I'm not saying that it's the best spot. Like I think if you're going to retake, you probably want to play here, which is why I was talking about the space creation. You probably want to play back here, right? Because you need time for your team to get back. So technically being here isn't even going to be the best spot, but nor would being right here, etc., right? The reason why this team fight has happened, it actually does start with the Reinhardt, but it doesn't start here. It started all the way back here when the Reinhardt gave up this contain, and then because your teammates staggered over time, which I'm not saying that it's necessarily all on you, but there can be a domino effect sometimes the way that you play a hero, that sometimes, like for me, when I play 2 aggro on a tank, you'll hear me go, oh, that was my bad. And you're like, well, no, you could have had that. I'm like, no, the reason why it's my bad is because I overextended. My teammates had to go in there and overextend to keep me up. And then even though they ended up keeping me up, or if they ended up rolling me, my teammates had to go out of a different position, and now their fallback becomes a lot more difficult because I made it a lot more difficult for them. That's why sometimes when you're playing tank or you're playing any role, focusing on something like this, as simple as this, or is where your retake is going to be, whether you're in bronze or top 500, can be really good because you're giving your team that safety net. This isn't giving your team that safety net. This is just basically resetting your team. Anyway. And then now you get staggered out. See? Remember what we're talking about here. It's just minimizing the damage you're taking. Jace Boy, thanks for the 19 months. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's it. You're minimizing. And keep in mind, by the way, for people watching go, no, but like Rein isn't that good right now, etc. Like, no matter where a hero's at right now, fixing habits like this, where like you're taking too much poke damage, is well worth it. Also, just to kind of continue on with a bit more of a discussion on that one, Rein is good in some ranks. Just other ranks will struggle. Is it a great Moira? I mean, listen, I'm not even gonna do it.
30 seconds.
I want to point something out, chat. Well, I don't know where this charge is gonna go. But remember how earlier chat said, oh, you need to take your space? I don't see an issue with that. The Rein is taking that space because it makes sense. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 teammates here. See what I mean? So the Rein has a general good idea of when they want to take space, right? But it's all about the timings. Do you see now where this makes sense? How you're taking away a lot of these angles, you're making it harder? I don't know where this pin's going to go. I paused it at a good time, but this is what I mean. You created space. Your teammates have the opportunity now. Look at how many people on them. You love this. As a DPS or support, you love this, right? What you're not going to love is what happens with this charge. Or you're going to love it. We'll see. Big slam. Nice shatter. Big slam. Cast behind you. Remember that could be up, and there it is. I think you might survive that, you might not, but I want to point out, you didn't hold up your shield there. Yeah, there it is. And there is the domino effect that we talked about. All right, and what is that? You go in, you hit a shatter, you make a play. Then they're casting high noons. Your reaction to the high noon is absolutely nothing. They don't kill you with the high noon, but you take about 500 damage from the high noon. Oh no. Now your teammates have to really rush to keep you alive and give you as much heals as possible, right? So what's the next step to this, right? Like what can happen? Well, they have to overuse their cooldowns. Oh, but they also have to push up to keep you alive. Now the Ana's out of position. Oh, they bob. You see the chain effect, the domino effect, etc. there, right? Your team now has to go and help you because you decided to play that way. And because your team has to go help you, you have now lost a team fight. This Bob might lose value if you don't do that, right? Because now your team doesn't have to overextend to keep you alive. I'm not saying that's going to be the play, but I'm trying to show you what can happen when you have these like moments of like taking too much damage. Oh, it's all making sense. I mean, I know maybe I'm over-explaining it sometimes, but I'm trying to get you in the habit of less poke damage, Think about why you're where you're at in the spot. Think about how it affects your teammates and how it's gonna, like, what they have to use cooldown-wise on you. You know what I'm saying? That seems like a very long, wide queue game. But it also depends what rank you're queuing with in that wide queue. The concept of wide queues there, it's just figuring it out over time. And I know that, like, they're gonna try to make it much better, which, I mean, I think it can work out very well. Alright, 300 damage taken. Okay, you didn't over push, so you're good now. Okay, and this is it. Okay, I want you to see this, okay? Not using your shield is fine, but the question I have for you is, what is the, you see the damage you're taking? What are you accomplishing with that? And that is where I think you need to look at this. What are you accomplishing by just sitting there with your shield down swinging, right? When you play around second point, absolutely, you're doing nothing. You're not getting anybody. You're not doing any damage to anybody. The only thing you're doing is taking damage. Now, the argument could be, well, you know, the Ana wanted me to take a bunch of damage for Nano. You know, there's context there, but I don't think that's the case, right? So what is your play here? You know what you want to do? Just sit here. Sit here for a second. If you want to play, if you want to drop down lower to help them, drop here. Play here again. Remember you were playing earlier? You do have to worry about the right side, but like you have ways to back up. But if you're just sitting here taking a bunch of random damage, it's not, you're gonna constantly put your team at the situation where they have to overextend to keep you alive. You've now taken 600 damage. You got to 119 HP of what I would say was unnecessary damage. You said you think your mentality is if you're shielding on high, they'll ignore you? But, like, let me ask you, even that isn't the case here. You don't even have to shield on the high ground. You could stand right here and not shield if you really wanted to, right? Like, if you have to play further back because your team lost that team fight, you can play here without shielding. You don't have to, but when you go here, you're just taking damage. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're just taking a bunch of unnecessary damage, which, next thing you know, you ever go, how did they get Bob again already, right? You'll hear that call out, like, holy crap, excuse me? How do they already get Bob? How do they already get this all? Well, that is how that happens, is all that random poke damage that even your teammates can't track. Big slam time? Oh, it's big slam time. Big slam! Grab the health pack. Health pack awareness. Nope. Health pack awareness. If you know what health pack is here, you back up, you grab the health pack, you get 2 more limbs. Maybe 3. Right? But you just stood there and tried to fight the brig. Health pack awareness. Right here. See? Oh, what's over here? Cool. You said you wish you knew about the health pack? That's why health pack awareness is super key. Okay, here we go. Countercharge that for your teammates. Second of all, you're not playing Zarya and you're trying to bubble. Like, remember this. You're also not playing Zarya. You're trying to bubble your teammates to give them value to go in. I also need you to kind of like, you need to create space for your team in that situation. You have a Nano venture. Go in and be a distraction. You're going to be a distraction for their team, right? Don't let them hard focus your venture. You get what I'm saying? I need you to countercharge more. Even if they have shatter. I know it's... Hey, nice charge. Hey, you knew they had shatter. I'm not gonna question that play because a lot of the time if you have the right distance on them, you can make that play. Shield up, shield up, shield. That right there shows you again. Do you see how important it is to hold your shield up? Do you see what I'm talking about? Hold your shield up. And I want to point out, I'm not trying to get you into the shield bot playstyle. I just need you to see when holding a shield is necessary, right? Your team should win this. You'll have a shatter again, too. Big slam! Nice. Even if they touch the point there, they lose that, so anyway, just to kind of go back to what we were talking about here. I think you have the right idea on some things. Like, and you said it earlier, you, like, absorb a lot of the information you learn, importance of high ground, importance of all that. But this is also why I think sometimes you need to take the ABC steps on heroes and why I try to talk about, like, some of the basics that you need to do. For you, I want you to minimize the poke damage you take, understand when the shield's good. I think for positioning, you had an idea. You started high grounds, great. You went behind walls and you went to spots where you could minimize damage taken, great. But a lot of the damage you took as Ryan, and a lot of the time they got on the limb on you, was because of you, and you only, right? It wasn't because your teammates weren't healing you. It wasn't because your DPS weren't making plays, and you didn't say that. I'm trying to point out, like, these are mistakes that you can fix and that will help you as a player and also help your teammates. So, understand your shield usage, work on that shield management when you do start using your shield more, and take way less poke damage, and I think you'll start to see a steady climb. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to all 3 YouTubes if you haven't. Also leave a comment, all of that helps. If you want to submit your own spectating, look in the description below. You'll see my Discord right there. That's where you can submit your spectatings. We also record these live on stream. You can see the Twitch chat right there below the webcam, so stop by if you haven't. And with that being said, I hope you all have an amazing day/night.